Hey everybody, you're listening to Raw with Marty Gallagher and JP Bryce on ICTV. Today we want to talk about why a large percentage of people, both men and women, never seem to obtain the results they seek from their training. Whether they want to lose weight, tone up, gain lean muscle, get stronger, or whatever, they look the same year after year. Is this you? Today we've got Coach Marty with us. We're going to ask him some questions. I know he's got a lot of answers. So the first question, Marty, I want to ask you is there's a lot of diligent folks out there at the Y, the Golds, Planet Fitness, everywhere, with hopes and dreams of having a better physique, but despite their tenacity, they stay the same. They never improve, or if they do, it's just slight. So what are some of the things that these people might be doing wrong?
Yeah, well, again, we're at the end of the month of January. Typically, you see the onslaught at the commercial facilities. You'll see the onslaught of the New Year's resolution makers, right? And they flood in on January 3rd. And about now, they all start, I would say within 4 to 6 weeks, probably 85% of them fall off the wagon. And again, why is that? When you boil it down to fundamentals, it really comes down to a lack of results, right, JP? I mean, it's results that refire enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is the key to fitness success. If we're continually enthused, then training, dieting, cardio, it all becomes effortless. But enthusiasm is only fueled by results. And these folks that are so diligent and so earnest, and they search the web and they come up with a good, well, it could be a strength training program, could be cardio, could be diet, whatever. But invariably, they fail because the methodologies are flawed.
Well, you're right. I mean, you hit it on the head. This time of year, it's New Year's resolution time. I see the same thing. My gym gets flooded. I can't get my weights are taken. My machines are gone. Yeah. And I'm like, where the hell did all these people come from? And you're right. It takes about 6 or 8 weeks, and they're pretty much all gone. So there's no consistency there. There's no results there in 6 weeks. They bail because they're like, forget this, I'm just going to sleep in the morning.
Well, yeah, but the reason that they're diligent, I mean, they show up and they put in the work, and they do what if they're adhering to a particular diet plan, they adhere tight to the diet, and they don't get the cost benefit ratios off. They don't feel that the results derived bear any relationship to the amount of time, money, and effort that they put into it. So they quit. And I don't blame them. I'd quit too if I was putting in a bunch of unpaid manual labor, not getting anything for it.
Right. Why do it? So, I mean, what are some of the reasons they're not getting results, such as maybe they're not going to failure?
Well, again, most normal folks, if you go to any YMCA, Gold's Gym, whatever, typically you'll see the same folks show up at the same time of day. They'll perform the same routine. If they're doing cardio, they'll get on their favored cardio device. Maybe it's a stationary bike, maybe it's a Nordic track, maybe it's a treadmill, whatever. They'll use the cardio device, at the same pace for the same duration, and it's very comfortable, and they enjoy it. And they might even sweat a little bit, although most of them don't. Same thing with the strength training. They'll typically, most normal people, they like machines. And if results were equal, I'd like machines too. Machines they're wonderful. They're comfortable. They have plush seating, the beautiful push pathways. I love machines.
Yeah, they have cup holders too.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, they're beautiful, beautiful to look at, and they're safe. People don't drop free weights on their toes and stuff. And if results were equal, machines would be fantastic. But as we might be skipping ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but the problem with machines is, of course, is that they eliminate what I call the third dimension of tension, the need to control side-to-side movement. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, free weights, in addition to concentric and eccentric, you also have to create your own motor pathway. With a machine, you're dealing with the frozen motor pathway. So because of that, you don't have to control any kind of side-to-side movement. That allows muscle stabilizers to stay dormant, right? They don't fire, they don't activate. So effectively, machines are right there. Makes machines 33% less effective. You just push and you pull, but because they've taken away the need to control that side-to-side movement, the inroad is not as deep. Okay.
Well, you're right. And the raw tools we're speaking of is dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells. But
that's pretty much it.
But it's user-defined movement. Whereas with the machine is defining. Yeah, the machine is defining your plane of motion and your movement and all that.
I like that, user-defined. That's a good phrase.
Yeah,
like
user-defined.
Mm-hmm. You cut your own motor pathway through time and space.
Right, and like you said, you're not getting the balancing. Like for example, if you do a squat on the Smith machine, you're getting the up and down, you're getting the positive and the negative, but you're not getting the side to side where you would with a barbell.
Or the front to the back, or any of the other. It's the wobble stuff that actually creates the deeper inroad. Right. And they want to sanitize that. They want to eviscerate strength training. They want to take the resistance out of resistance training, and it's contrary to what we're looking to achieve. To create. I mean, what's the goal? Let's maybe we should back it up. I think that also a lot of regular folks, they're confused on what they need to be doing and how hard they need to be doing it. There's a degree of intensity that has to be attained when you're strength training in order to trip the hypertrophy switch.
Right.
And it's not, you can't cruise along at 75% of capacity and expect all the adaptive response to be triggered and hypertrophy and all the fantastic hormones that are dumped into the system only in response to Herculean 102% effort.
You've got to embrace the struggle.
Yes.
Because that's where the gains lie.
Yes. But instead, machine manufacturers, for example, I don't want to be picking on them all day, but they are taking the struggle out of the movement. Now, as a user, when you sit down and you do let's take the Smith machine. You put 400 pounds on a Smith machine and you're going to bench press it or squat it. That 400 feels a hell of a lot lighter than 400 pounds on an Olympic bar.
Well, I mean, if it's counterbalance, you're removing 35 pounds right off the top.
Well, even forget that. Let's assume that the payloads were absolutely equal. The machine is so much. I mean, the 400 pounds on the machine is so much lighter because you can dedicate 100% of your effort to just push or just pull.
Right.
Right.
But again, the machine is defining the path of motion.
Yeah.
And
but now the path of the machine path is not necessarily a bad thing. I teach my guys to lift like machines, right? We want to be efficient. In other words, like for example, a deadlift. In the deadlift, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So we teach our deadlifters that when they deadlift, you pull in a straight line up. And a good deadlifter will make their body conform to the straight line pull. A bad deadlifter will make the bar conform to their out of position body. So lifting like a machine is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as we put back in the need for stabilizer
Right.
contractions, right?
Yeah.
So again, looping back around, one of the big problems is in progressive resistance or in cardio, you need to push and extend your boundaries, right? Limits and capacities can take many different forms. It's not a single rep. If we're talking about strength training, a limit in capacity, when I say we need to do 102%, we're not talking about, oh, you have to do a single rep with, 2% more than you've ever handled before. That's not what we're talking about. You can attain 102% effort doing a set of 12 reps or 3 sets of 5 reps. There's many different ways to trip that hypertrophy switch, okay? But it requires that we work up to and past our momentary capacity on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Your capacity can be different on Monday than it is on Friday due to circumstance, environment, whatever. Okay? Whatever your capacity is on that day, it's your duty to work up to, optimally a little past that capacity in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Do you think everybody should exert 102% effort?
Yes, absolutely. And again, what does that mean? It doesn't mean, if we're sticking to strength training, it doesn't mean you have to, fail with a rep. 102% effort is, you know what? I barely completed that rep. Perfect. You're done.
Right.
You don't have to tackle a rep that you know you're not going to make.
Failure -1.
Failure -1. Yeah, I love that phrase. Who came up with that? That's genius.
Marty Gallagher, I think. As far as I know, that's what you told me.
I probably stole it from Kirk.
Oh, he can't hear this. We won't get in trouble for it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the idea, and it's not. You can do this safely. It's just no matter what lift you're doing, it's like you take it to that point where I've done this rep. I don't have anything left. I don't have another one in me. That's enough. You're done. You're done. You're done.
And
you
that's
did your job. That's great.
And that's exactly what it takes to transform the body. Transforming the physical elements of the body is not easy. It takes Herculean effort, just like you said. Otherwise, everybody walk around looking like Superman.
Sure. Wouldn't it be fabulous if you could do 3 sets of 10 reps on the seated bench press machine, and you'd grow like a weed? That'd be fantastic. I'd love that.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens.
Right.
And the same thing with your cardio exercise. If you're not busting sweat, if you're not huffing and puffing, you're really not doing it. Okay? There's a cardiovascular threshold that needs to be crossed too, if the goal is to mobilize and oxidize body fat.
Yeah.
To me, I want to coordinate my cardio and my nutrition to force the body to feed on its own body fat.
Yeah.
And the bodybuilders have showed us that the strategies to do that. This path has been blazed. We know how to do this. It's a combination of cardio, lifting, diet, right? And again, the exercise amps up the metabolism. And if your fuel is clean and powerful, you can tilt it to either, hey, I'm going to grow lean muscle mass, or hey, I'm going to get as leaned out as possible. So again, but in either case, you need to exert maximally and learn how to exert maximally safely.
Let's not overlook though the some of the more obvious reasons people aren't getting results. I mean, I'm going in the gym 3-4 times a week, and there's so many. I grew up in the 80s. We didn't have all the cell phones. We came in and busted ass the whole time. What I see is so many distractions via these phones, whether people are talking or taking selfies or doing whatever. So I think that's one of the obvious reasons people are in there and they're not getting the results, because they're losing their concentration. They're not they're distracted. I think that's one of the reasons too.
Well,
Um,
we can't be bothered with those folks. Honestly, it's like the craze at the YMCA and the Golds as you go there, and now it's considered acceptable behavior to sit on a machine. If you're going to do, let's say, 3 sets of 10 submaximal reps in the overhead press on the whatever machine the YMCA has, it's acceptable behavior to sit there on the machine between sets and text or check your messages. Isn't that special? And if you come up and you go, "Hey, pal, can I work in there?" They get offended.
they're like, "Oh, dude, you're bothering me."
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you?
One of one of the indicators, or one of the things that I always ask myself, it's kind of dumb, but it's one of my own personal things. I go, would Kurt Kowalski have done that? Yeah,
Well,
could you see now? Could you see Kirk doing selfies between squats? No, I don't think so.
for money? If
Yeah.
someone paid him.
Yeah, maybe for money. Yeah.
Sure, I'll do it. I'll do a selfie. $25. Come here, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking it all back, the reason that folks are continually disappointed is, number one, they swear allegiance to a faulty protocol. Number two, they exert with insufficient intensity, whether it's cardio, whether it's strength training, and I think. Thirdly, and this is something that we place a lot of emphasis on, is that the only constant in we call it transformative fitness is stagnation. Mm-hmm. And when someone has what we call a virginal body, someone who's new to, let's say, resistance training, they can use about any crazy system for the first 6 weeks to 6 months, and they'll get results.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah, because their body is so susceptible, particularly if they're diligent and disciplined. Regardless of how ridiculous the program is, they will get results. The problem comes that these same people, they go, "I know that system works because I got incredible results from it."
Right.
What do? They turn it into a religion. So they're doing the same thing for 5 years, and the only gains they got from it were in the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The body has a whether it's exercise or medication or whatever, the body is very good at adapting, and you have to overcome that when you're trying to continually make gains. I mean, we've talked about it many times. You'll have a 12-week cycle or whatever of going heavy and going up each time, and after that, you just get burnt. You get burned out mentally and physically, and it's time for a change. And when you make that change, it's got to be pretty drastic, doesn't it?
Has to be.
Yeah.
You can't work with I don't know. Let's say you were doing a 4-week cycle and you were concentrating on set to 5 in your strength training. A change is not switching to 6, right? 6 reps, or
right.
Minor changes or no change. You need dramatic, radical change. An elite trainer will have 20 or 30 proven effective resistance training protocols in their training quiver. Right. And they can whip these things out. And we want to create contrast. We pick a protocol that's been battle tested and proven. We use it with the 100% intensity and the tenacity and the discipline that it deserves. And at some point, usually 4 to 6 weeks, those results are gonna dry up. That's fine. That's to be expected. And it's no problem, because the elite anticipates stagnation in advance, and they have a sufficiently contrasting program ready to roll out and put into place.
They have a plan. You got to have a plan.
And you have to have a plan after the plan. You have a plan, but then you also have a plan. Okay, when this plan goes flat, I got this plan to come in behind it. This is why we like to contrast what we call a mass building cycle or a power cycle, and we'll contrast that with a lean out cycle. And again, of course, always and forever, we love the classic 12-week periodization, straight line periodization. We like, the first 4 weeks we'll do, 2 weeks of 8s, 2 weeks of 6s, then probably the middle 4 weeks of 5s, and then finish up with 2 weeks of triples and maybe 2 weeks of singles. Now that is a classic strength peaking program that would be used by an athlete going into a training camp and wanting to be maximally strong. Could be used by a shot putter, could be used by, anybody who wants to get stronger. That's the classic strength recipe. Take 12 weeks, break the 12-week macro cycle down into 3-4 week micro cycles within that, and you attack it that way. But at the end of the 12 weeks, it's like, wow, that was great. I picked up lean muscle mass, picked up a little additional body fat, but that's okay because I have pushed through to the next level of size and strength. Great. Perfect time to begin a lean out.
And keep a journal. That's part of the plan.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, man.
Keep a journal. I've been, and all you guys do it too, because I know, but I've been keeping a journal since, I can go back to probably the 90s and look back. But,
yep.
Week after week, you forget how many reps you did with a certain weight or whatever. But if you keep a journal, you can progressively each week, do an extra rep or two at the same weight or go up 5 pounds. But you got to keep, you got to keep track of it.
You have to keep a journal. I mean, with training log, classically what we did in the olden days is you'd have a little spiral notebook, right?
Yeah.
Throw it in your gym bag, have the pen in the little spiral notebook. As soon as you're done the set, you go over and you write down, 315 times 5, and you give it a, 6.5, meaning it was easy on a 1 to 10 scale. So we write down the date, we write down our body weight, we write down the exercise, we write down the set as soon as it's completed. You don't wait till the end of the training session to write all this stuff down. As soon as you're done the set, you log it. That way you don't have any fuzzy memories or, I can't quite remember what I did on this or that. And you also give it a rating. If it's a top set, if you were scheduled to hit, 315 for 5 in the deadlift on Tuesday, and you made your 315 for 5, you also want to put in there, was it easy? Was it medium? Was it just ball breaking? So the way that we do it is we have a 1 to 10 scale rating. If my guys like up to a 7, that means that it was cake. 7 to 9 means that's pretty damn, that was tougher. 9 and above, it's like, that's it. That was a limit attempt. I had nothing left. And that way we're able to put an intensity gauge on these lifts. If you look back in your log in 4 weeks, you have no way of telling whether that 315 for 5 set was a piece of cake or it was maximal. So again, we like to have an intensity enhancer attached. And you don't need to do it on your warm-up sets, but on your top sets. Nowadays, I guess everybody's they're logging in on their phones, right?
Yeah, you can do that. They even have different, I think they have different apps and things like that.
Yeah.
But
you log, but logging is no good unless you review and draw conclusions from your review.
What the logging does is each week it sets up goals for the next workout. So what I'll do and what you guys do is, okay, on the day you're working out, you look back to last week. You go, okay, I'm going to add 5 pounds. I'm going to add an extra rep, but it gives you goals to hit for each and every workout.
And if you know that last week that 315 for 5 was a 6.5, you know that 325 this week's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Now, if that 315 for 5 was an 8.5, then I don't know. Maybe we better think about this, right? So again, it's important that not only do you note, but you assign some sort of a qualifier to the effort.
Right.
Now, cardio, the same thing. We love to use the heart rate monitor because using the heart rate monitor with cardio allows us to assess the intensity of the effort. Without a heart rate monitor, it's like lifting weights without knowing the poundage.
Yes, right.
So we consider a heart rate monitor an important tool. Also, when we have a heart rate monitor, then all of a sudden we're able to periodize our cardio.
Mm-hmm.
Where we go, okay, I'm coming into this lean out phase. I'm a little bit heavy. I'm a little bit sluggish. I'm going to jump in at 60% of my age-related heart rate max, 3 20-minute sessions a week. Great. What could be easier? Then each week, we're going to increase that intensity. Where in week 1, we were at 60%. In week 2, 62.5. In week 3, 65. In week 4, 67.5. In week 5, 70. You see how we're modulating up the intensity.
Yep.
By using the heart rate monitor. And this allows us, now we have, duration is easy. Right. How long is the session? Frequency is easy. How many sessions per week or per day? What is difficult has been intensity. How hard was the effort? The heart rate monitor allows us to put that numerical value on cardiovascular intensity. That's huge. Okay. Now we can periodize our lifting, we can periodize our cardio, and at the highest level, you can periodize your diet and your nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
You know how the bodybuilders used to work it back in the day, and still to this day. They'll start off, well, I don't know, they want to come into a competition cut cycle classically with a high caloric intake off their mass building cycle. Like a guy like Dorian Yates. Dorian would push his body weight up to a few biscuits shy of 300 in the off season. And then 1 week at a time up until the Olympia, he would whittle down probably 2 pounds a week, and he would compete at 260. So he'd drop 40 pounds, 2 pounds a week, 20 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that way, because he's using a very slow, gradual, methodical reduction process, he doesn't destroy his lean muscle mass that he works so hard to build. Right. Anybody can just starvation diet, but the problem with starvation diet is you lose equal amounts of muscle as you do fat, or more muscle than fat, because the body loves to preserve fat, and it will actually cannibalize muscle tissue to preserve that fat, because fat is the last line of defense against starvation. So it's a tricky thing. We want to keep the metabolism kicking from the exercise, but we have to modulate the diet in order to create this systematic reduction in body fat. Boom, 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 boom. And again, let's say we have a 12-week mass building cycle followed by a 12-week lean out cycle. That's 24 weeks. Each cycle is 3 months. You could sync that up seasonally. You could go, hey, in the winter, I'm going to take 12 weeks and I'm going to get big and strong. Then when the winter's over and spring comes, I'm going to take 12 weeks and I'm going to refine my mass. It's classic bodybuilding, right?
Yeah. Well, in addition to, getting back to why people aren't getting results, like we talked about, I mean, when you begin, you can pretty much do anything and it's going to work, right? But after a while, after your body kind of adapts, I think people go, oh my God, I've got to work out every day. I've got to kick ass every day. I think they make the mistake of overdoing it, and they soon get mentally burned out. They're not getting enough rest to recuperate, recover, and grow. So I think we want to say don't overdo it. More is not better. You still got to remember that you need the rest, even though you might want to go into the gym on your day off. It's enticing, but you got to remember you can come in and break down the muscle, but if you're not letting it rest and grow and feeding it correctly, you're going backwards.
I don't see too much of that out my way. My way, it's not people are doing too much, it's that they're doing too little. And they're doing too little too easy. You can't do a bunch of sub-maximal sets on a machine and expect to turn into a muscle monster. You can't read a magazine while you're riding a stationary bike and expect to get ripped. That's what I see. I don't see guys I gotta dial back. I love those guys. I love the guys that do too much. Those are the guys I want to work with.
Well, see, that was me. I was doing too much. I was in there every day. I was fired up, and I had to dial it back. And I started reading the muscle magazines, Muscle and Fitness, who you were writing for at the time, and I thought, oh my God,
lies, all lies.
Yeah, I thought, what, this is great. I don't have to work out 7 days a week to gain muscle. So,
yeah. Well, again, the problem that I see is undertraining, underexerting, and just using some really lame protocols, and again turning these things into religions. But people they fall in love with their little routines, and you see them doing the same things in the same way with the same poundage or the same duration and the same intensity on the same, and and they never change. Why would they?
But you know what? And they don't realize that they're in there. They don't discuss training with anybody. They come in and they think
pardon-moi, s'il vous plaît. They do discuss. They have personal trainers at the Y that are sitting there telling them, no, don't go down. No. This is an important point. Personal trainers, by and large, are telling people that they need to undertrain and that they can get results by using these lame methods. Most personal trainers are incapable of gleaning results for their clientele. That's the dirty little secret. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, that's not good. But for a lot of people that don't utilize a personal trainer, they go in and they just don't know. If they had a little guidance, that's where it's good to read books and get on YouTube and
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there's so much bad advice out there. It's almost better to have no advice than some of the crazy stuff that you and I see.
Yeah, you have to be careful. I mean, they need to call somebody like Marty Gallagher.
Yes.
They need to. I guess when you're seeking advice, especially on bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever, they need to seek the advice from people that have proven themselves. I don't know. We always talk about results. What has that personal trainer done? Have they ever done anything? Have they won contests?
Have they ever done anything?
Yeah.
Other than pay money to get a certification or a college degree.
Yeah.
Well, I tell my folks, I say, hey, look, when you're checking out someone to take advice from, there are really only three categories. Do they have any academic credentials? Do they have any athletic credentials? Do they have any coaching credentials? Is their education appropriate for what it is that you're trying to accomplish, a radical physical transformation? It doesn't do a lot of good to have a degree in poli-sci, if you're training people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Additionally, have they ever done anything athletically themselves? Have they ever been a champion? That's good to know. Have they ever trained anybody? Do they have a long string of transformed individuals that they can point to? Most don't. They depend on the churn. They depend on continually turning over new clients to replace clients that quit.
Right, that's right.
The churn.
Yep.
So that's what we are not. We are all about getting results for our people. And we never fail to get results for our people, assuming that they adhere to the strategies that we give them. Our stuff works. Of that, there's no doubt. The only question is the ability of the trainee to adhere to the protocols.
Yeah, that's important. If you don't adhere, you don't make changes.
Yeah, and assuming you have good protocols to begin with. Let me just recap real quick. So why do New Year's resolvers classically not get results? Well, number one, they're not exerting hard enough in their strength training. They've got to get in the habit of performing those barely completed last reps on the top set of an exercise. That is when all the good stuff happens. Unless you're pushing right up to the limit of your capacity, there's no physiologic incentive for the body to reconfigure itself. Why is it going to get more muscular in response to submaximal effort?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right? Same. Okay, so that's in the strength training. We've got to learn how to push closer to your limits and capacities. Your cardio. Number one, are you sweating? It's a very, very core question. I look around when I go to commercial facilities, and even though these people, they're like flailing away on these machines, and they might be having a tremendous pace, nobody's sweating, right? You need to work hard enough that your cardiopulmonary system is working hard. It has its own version of the adaptive response. Whereas there's an adaptive response hypertrophy with resistance training, there's also cardiovascular has its own adaptive response. Now, it has to be coordinated with diet, but the adaptive response in cardio is that we're mobilizing and burning body fat.
Right.
And we're getting fitter simultaneously. Wow, perfect. That's exactly what we want. And then the third leg, you have your strength training, you have your cardiovascular training, you need to look at your nutrition. If your nutrition is poor, it can undo everything you do in the gym. You can get stronger, you can get fitter, but you can still be really fat.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what percentage of nutrition would you say, is responsible for the results that we seek?
Well, it depends on the individual. If the individual is naturally, I know a lot of guys who naturally walk around, with a 12% body fat percentile, but they're also naturally light eaters, right? So then you have guys like you and me who, we're naturally heavy eaters. So our nutrition for us is going to be different than nutrition for a naturally lean person. I like to think of it this way: 33% strength training, 33% cardio, 33% diet nutrition, right?
Okay.
Right, kind of.
Okay.
You need to have all three of those elements. Now, there are a multitude of variations and variables within each of those three elements. Actually, there's a fourth element, of course, as you know, which is the psychological. We won't get into that. There's a whole
brain train.
Yeah, brain train, and this whole idea about you have to lock everything down so that within the first 10 days to 2 weeks of a new program, you need to see some damn results.
Right.
And if you have a legitimate strength training protocol, legitimate cardiovascular training protocol, a good power diet strategy, within 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to see results. First off, you're going to feel better. Second of all, you're going to be stronger, right? And third, you're going to be fitter, and you're going to feel that. Also, you're going to, because you're training under someone who knows what they're doing, that trainee is going to experience that flood tide of beneficial hormones that only comes in response to super intense effort. You don't get the serotonin and the endorphins and the adrenaline and the growth hormone and all the good stuff. That stuff only is unleashed when the body senses some traumatic event is happening.
Right, it's like a tsunami, like a runner's high.
Yeah, well, no, we did. Yeah, I hate that phrase, runner's high. The runners have to go. They got to run to go to get what I can get in 5 minutes walking to my shed.
Yeah.
Give me 4 sets, and I have runner's high. I can induce this blissful hormonal flood tide within 4 sets of progressive resistance training every time, because I know how to push myself up to 102% capacity safely and effectively. It's not a problem. Same thing
Right.
out with cardio. I know how to unleash the runner's high real quickly, and I don't have to run 8 miles to do it. The quickest way to unleash cardiovascular hormonal sumani is sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 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 boom. Sprint, recover, sprint again, right? You'll get that runner's high a hell of a lot quicker than you will if you're out there jogging around the high school track.
Right, and you don't have to go as long, and you end up burning more fat in less time.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Yep.
So again, and also when you do get onto a good regimen, every 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, you need to change things up. Okay.
Right. Yep.
And that's critical, and you need to have something to change to. Any personal trainer who tells you they have one system, find somebody else.
Yeah.
This idea that there's some grand miraculous strategy that trumps all others and renders everything else ineffective, that is so completely wrong-headed. And there's so much out there. Oh, we've got the miracle revolutionary system that blows everything before it into the weeds. And it's like we've heard that stuff for so many decades, and it's just over and over and over and over and over. And it's complete BS.
It all boils down to results.
Yeah, I would suggest learning some compound multi-joint free weight movements. Mm-hmm. And if you use full range of motion, you can get away with using next to nothing. Stacy, my wife, is putting people through effective progressive resistance training using just the cross core, which is a suspension trainer, and a couple of kettlebells. She's not even using barbells or dumbbells for her older clients, and they're getting the adaptive response because she's replicating the free weight experience on a suspension trainer. Okay. But if you understand that principle, honestly, you can replicate you can generate the adaptive response with no weight if you really know what you're doing.
Yeah, it all has to do with rep speed, intensity enhancers, you name
difficulty.
Yeah.
Herculean effort. Embrace struggle.
Right.
Don't run from struggle. Struggle is what you want in resistance training. The more struggle, the better. That's our strategy. Our strategy is everyone else's. How can we make it easier? And we're like, how can we make it harder?
Right.
What can we do to make this harder? Oh, well, we can extend the range of motion. We can use pauses. We can use grind speed. We could use, it's unbelievable how many intensity enhancers you can come up with. Right. Yeah. So that's our strategy.
All right, very good. Listen, I agree with everything you just said.
Good.
What am I going to argue with, right? So I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and close out of this. I got a couple of things here. First of all, check out Marty's weekly column and podcast, Raw with Marty Gallagher, on ironcompany.com. For the column, just go up to the top of the website at the header there. It says articles. You can click on there and you'll see Marty's articles. For the podcast, like this one and all the ones we've done in the past, you can go down to our footer at the bottom. It says podcast. Just click on there. You'll see all our archives down there. Marty is also available for online training and seminars. You can reach him by going to our athletes page at ironcompany.com. And for all your equipment needs, if you need strength equipment, free weights, cardio, rubber gym flooring, anything, check out ironcompany.com as well. And check out the Kirk bar. We've got the Kirk Kowalski Power Bar on there. And it's a great value. It's a great bar, USA made. Check that out. And That's it. We'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
Later.
That
Bye.
is.